The long fall. The first time I died, my wife forgot to pack my main parachute. As I fell from 13,000 feet, I watched her share a tandem rig with her childhood sweetheart, Julian. They embraced against the endless blue sky while I became a human meteor, hurtling toward my own obliteration. In the final second before impact, I heard her voice, carried on the wind to my memory, if not my ears. "Finally," she said to him, "we can be together out in the open." Then I woke up, 24 hours before the fall. 1. I was in the lounge of a skydiving center just outside Seattle, watching my wife, Chloe, make me a coffee. The way her ponytail swayed when she turned was the same gentle motion I'd fallen in love with. "Honey, tomorrow's our 3rd anniversary," she said, her voice a soft melody. "I booked us a tandem jump to celebrate." She handed me the mug, and the wedding ring on her finger glinted like a shard of ice. My own hand trembled as I took it, not from fear, from excitement. In the life before this one, I drank this exact coffee, fell into a deep sleep, and missed the pre-jump equipment check. This time, I took a theatrical sip, and when she wasn't looking, I dumped the contents into a nearby potted fern. "Chloe, are you sure about this? I thought you were terrified of heights," I asked, testing her. I wanted to hear the lie again. A flicker of something, panic, crossed her eyes before being replaced by a sugary, sweet smile. "For you, I'd overcome any fear." Such a touching line. If I hadn't seen the cold indifference in her eyes as I plummeted to my death, I might have even believed it. I stood up, pretending to stretch, but really scanning the room. In the corner were the gear bags for tomorrow. The main and reserve chutes hadn't been packed yet. My blind trust in her had been my undoing last time. She was the one who had helped me with my gear. "I'm going to use the restroom," I said. The moment the door clicked shut, I pulled out my phone and called the lead instructor. "Mark, hey man, I was wondering if you could teach me how to do a full gear check myself tomorrow, before the jump." Mark Davis and I had been buddies since kindergarten. After I died, he was the first to suspect Chloe. "Ethan, what's this all of a sudden?" "Just want to surprise Chloe," I lied smoothly. "Make her think I'm some kind of expert." The line was quiet for a beat. "Sure thing, man. Come by my office now, I'll walk you through it." I hung up and stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The man looking back had dark, haunted circles under his eyes, a phantom imprint of the terror from my final moments. I splashed cold water on my face. "Ethan," I whispered. "This time, they're the ones going to hell." When I returned to the lounge, Chloe was scrolling through my iPhone. She locked it guiltily when I walked in. "Oh, honey, I was just checking the weather for tomorrow." I played dumb, smiling as I ran my fingers through her hair. Last time, she'd used that moment to photograph a sensitive file from my aerospace lab and sent it to Julian. This time my phone was wiped clean. "Hey, Mark invited me out for a beer. Why don't you head back to the hotel?" Relief washed over her face. She gave me a quick peck on the cheek. "Don't have too many. Big day tomorrow." I watched her walk away, my hand clenching into a fist so tight my nails dug into my palm. The pain was a sharp, welcome reminder that I was alive. Mark's office was at the far end of the hangar. He was meticulously inspecting a set of lines when I walked in. "Ethan, you look like you've seen a ghost." I shut the door behind me. "Someone's trying to kill me tomorrow," I said, my voice hoarse. The pliers in Mark's hand clattered to the floor. After I told him everything, his face was a mask of cold fury. "Chloe, are you kidding me? For that leech Julian?" I just shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. I'd asked myself the same thing during that 40-second fall. "I need your help, Mark," I said, pointing to the parachute packs on the wall. "Tomorrow, I need 2 sets of gear. One that's perfectly safe and one that's been tampered with." Mark's jaw tightened. "Where are you planning, Ethan?" "Give the tampered one to Chloe." He shot up from his chair. "No way. That's murder." I put a hand on his shoulder, forcing him to look at me. "I'm just going to swap the deployment handles for her main and reserve chutes. It won't kill her. It will just make her think her main chute has failed." I paused, letting the words sink in. I want her to feel that stomach-dropping, free-fall terror for herself. He hesitated for a long, agonizing moment before finally giving a slow nod. "But you have to promise me she won't actually get hurt." I smiled, the memory of my own bones shattering on impact flashing in my mind. "I promise." It was dark by the time I left the airfield. An iMessage from Chloe was waiting for me. "Hey, babe. Julian asked if he could join us tomorrow." I told him no, of course. I stared at the screen, a cold laugh building in my chest. Last time, she hadn't said no. Last time, Julian had just coincidentally shown up. I typed back, "The more the merrier. Tell him to come along." After sending the message, I stopped at a 24-hour pharmacy. "Do you have anything that can induce temporary unconsciousness?" I asked the pharmacist. He eyed me with suspicion. "That would require a prescription." I flashed my work ID from the aerospace lab. "It's for a G-force simulation. Anti-vertigo experiments." With a small vial of clear liquid secured, I went to a department store and bought a thermos identical to Chloe's. Back at the hotel, she was in the shower. I moved quickly, swapping our thermoses and adding the drops to hers. It was the same way she had drugged me. An eye for an eye. The water shut off. I sprawled on the bed, pretending to be engrossed in my phone. Chloe emerged wrapped in a towel, her hair dripping. "Honey, can you blow dry my hair?" I used to love this ritual. She'd sit on the floor, purring like a contented cat. Now, the thought of it made my skin crawl. Still, I picked up the hairdryer. Over the roar of the hot air, she said, "Julian's bringing his new girlfriend tomorrow." My hand paused. That wasn't part of last time's script. "Oh yeah, what's her name?" I'm not sure." He said they just met. Her lies were getting sloppy. I turned off the dryer and swiveled her around to face me. "Chloe, do you love me?" Her gaze darted away for a split second before locking onto mine, her face breaking into that familiar, dazzling smile. "Of course I do. Why else would I have married you?" I stared into her eyes, searching for a single crack in the facade, a hint of guilt. There was nothing, just cold, calculating ambition hidden behind a beautiful mask. "Let's get some sleep," I said, kissing her forehead just like I always did. "Big day tomorrow." She fell asleep quickly. I slipped out of bed and picked up her phone. The password, our anniversary, hadn't changed. In her photo gallery, the most recent picture was a group shot from my last work function. She had zoomed in on me, standing next to Linda, our CFO. Last time, she'd used this photo to manufacture an affair, setting the stage for a tidy divorce after my accident. I deleted it, then navigated to her iMessage thread with Julian. "Tomorrow goes according to plan. Don't worry. I'll be on the ground waiting for you. Did you put the sedative in his drink?" "It's in his thermos. He'll drink it before we leave." A chill ran down my spine, even though I knew it was coming. I screenshotted everything and sent it to myself, then checked her email confirmations. A week ago, she'd booked a private skydiving certification course. The students were her and Julian, so they were already experienced jumpers. And I was the fool who thought his wife was overcoming her greatest fear just for him. I put the phone back and stood by the window, looking out at the Seattle skyline. I'd seen a similar view just before I fell. Chloe had stood behind me, her voice a soft whisper. "Look how beautiful the city is from up here, honey." The next second, she'd shoved me out of the plane. I gripped the window frame, my knuckles turning white. "This time it's your turn." Chloe was humming when she woke up, her mood bright. "Honey, I made you some tea," she said, handing me the drugged thermos with an expectant look. I took it and pretended to take a few sips. It tasted a little bitter. Her smile faltered for an instant. "Oh, maybe the honey was off." I took another long drink in front of her, then swayed on my feet. "Weird," I slurred, suddenly so dizzy. Her expression immediately relaxed. "You probably just got up too fast. Lie down for a bit." I collapsed onto the bed, watching her through slitted eyes. She tiptoed around, getting dressed, then double-checked my skydiving license and my wallet. Finally, she made a call. "He's out cold." "Yes, it's strong. Are you on your way?" I could faintly hear Julian's voice on the other end. "I'll meet you at the airfield. Remember, leave the main chute." Chloe hung up and gently patted my cheek. "Honey, can you hear me?" I remained perfectly still. She let out a soft chuckle and then, to my utter disgust, took my credit card from my wallet. "One last shopping spree," she whispered to herself. I almost jumped up and strangled her right there. After I died, she not only inherited my entire estate, but also collected on a massive life insurance policy. This time, I'd already moved all my assets. After putting on her makeup, she shook me, her voice filled with fake panic. "Ethan, wake up. We're going to be late." I groaned, pretending to wake up slowly, rubbing my temples. My head is killing me. Come on, we'll miss our time slot, she said, pulling me impatiently out of bed. The airfield was busier than the day before. Julian was standing at the front desk, and next to him was a young woman I didn't recognize. Ethan, he called out, waving with a broad, fake smile. This is my girlfriend, Sarah. The woman, Sarah, gave a shy nod, but her eyes kept nervously flicking toward Chloe. The whole thing felt staged. You'll need to sign these liability waivers, the receptionist said, handing us clipboards. This was where she'd tricked me last time, rushing me, so I'd sign the wrong line and accidentally list her as the sole beneficiary of the jump's accidental death policy. This time, I read every single word. When I got to the beneficiary section, I calmly wrote in Mark Davis. Honey, Chloe's face changed. Why did you write his name? I gave her an innocent look. You always said you hate filling out these forms. I figured I'd let a pro handle it. She forced a smile and dropped the subject. A moment later, Mark appeared with our parachute packs. Ethan, got your gear just like you asked. He gave me a look loaded with meaning. Chloe immediately reached for my pack. I'll get my husband's gear ready. Mark calmly put his hand over hers. Regulations require instructors to handle all equipment checks. She looked annoyed, but didn't argue. Julian stepped in to smooth things over. Hey, Chloe, why don't you help me with my pack? The two of them moved to a corner, pretending to inspect the gear while whispering intensely. Suddenly, Sarah was standing next to me. Mr. Hayes, she said, her voice barely audible. Be careful of Chloe. I froze. Who are you? I'm Julian's ex, she said with a bitter smile. He promised me a cut of the money if I played along today. But honestly, I'd rather have revenge. I looked at her more closely and saw a faint purple bruise on her neck. Did he do that? Sarah nodded, her eyes welling with tears. He did it for her. He made me. Get rid of our baby. A wave of nausea hit me. In my last life, I had no idea there were other victims. Stay away from them, no matter what happens, I told her in a low voice. Mark came back over. Time to board. The small jump plane had room for 6. Me, Chloe, Julian, Sarah, and 2 instructors, one of whom was Mark. As we ascended, Chloe clutched my hand, putting on a masterful show of terror. Honey, I'm so nervous. I patted her back, just like I had a lifetime ago. Don't worry, I've got you. I had said those words to her 1,000 times. Today would be the last. At 13,000 feet, the cabin door slid open. A roaring wind blasted inside, whipping Chloe's hair across her face. She looked at me, and, for the first time, her expression was completely alien. You go first, honey, she said. That's what she'd said last time, right before she forgot to clip my main parachute to my harness. I smiled and shook my head. Ladies first. Julian chimed in. Hey, how about Chloe and I jump together? To give her some courage. Mark frowned. That's against standard procedure. We can make an exception, right? Julian said, slipping a thick roll of cash to the other instructor, who, after a moment's hesitation, nodded. Chloe's eyes lit up. Okay, so Julie and I will go, and you can jump with Sarah? I glanced at Sarah. She gave me an almost imperceptible shake of her head. No, I said, standing up. Chloe and I are here to celebrate our anniversary. We're jumping together. The color drained from Chloe's face. But, ignoring her protests, I wrapped my arm around her waist and pulled her toward the open door. The clouds swirled below us, a gaping abyss ready to swallow me again. Ready, my love? I whispered in her ear. Her body was rigid. She managed a weak nod. Mark began fastening the tandem harness connecting us. Suddenly, Chloe shrieked. Wait, is the main chute attached correctly? Everyone stared. Mark did a quick check. It's perfect. Chloe's face was ashen, her lips trembling. I knew what she was afraid of. Her plan was for me to jump alone, ensuring my pack was empty. But now, we were strapped together. If she had tampered with this chute, she was going down with me. You look pale, Chloe. Are you feeling sick? I asked with fake concern. She shook her head weakly. No. Just the height. Julian came over. Maybe we should stick to the original plan. What original plan? I cut him off. The cabin fell silent. He means, Chloe stammered. The original plan was to jump separately. I smiled, pulling her tighter against me. Let's change the plan. A husband and wife should face everything together. The wind howled, drowning out any reply she might have had. Mark gave the final countdown. 3, 2, 1. As we fell into the abyss, Chloe let out a blood-curdling scream. It wasn't a scream of fear. It was a scream of pure, unadulterated despair. 2. The wind tore at us like 1,000 knives as Chloe's screams were ripped to shreds by the rushing air. At 13,000 feet, the world was a blur of blue and white. The chute. Why won't it open? She shrieked, clawing frantically at the pack on my back, her fingers rigid with panic. I didn't answer. I just held her tight against me as we accelerated toward terminal velocity, the earth rushing up to meet us. My ears popped from the pressure. I kept my eyes glued to my altimeter, 11,000 feet. Ethan, pull the cord. Her tears were instantly wicked away by the wind, her face a grotesque mask of terror. I leaned in close, my voice cutting through the roar. First question, when did it start with you and Julian? Her eyes widened in shock. 10,000 feet. I don't know what you're talking about. I loosened my grip slightly, sending us into a wild tumble. Chloe's scream was piercing. Wrong answer, I yelled, dangling the ripcord for the main chute in front of her face. We got about 7,000 feet left, but 3,500 is the absolute lowest you can safely open the reserve. Her lips trembled uncontrollably. 9,000 feet. In college. It started in college, she finally screamed. He was my first love, but then his family went bankrupt. So you found a new Mark? I spat back. An aerospace engineer with a bright future. 8,000 feet. Second question. How long have you been planning to kill me? Her nails dug into my arm, a desperate anchor in the storm. 3 months. Ever since you found out Julian was embezzling from the company. A hammer blow to the chest. All this time, I thought I was uncovering a crime. Turns out, I was signing my own death warrant. 7,000 feet. Third question. My voice was raw. In my last life, when I was falling, you said you could finally be together out in the open. What did you mean? The blood drained from her face. How could you possibly know that? I let go a little more, and we dropped like a stone. I could see the cars on the freeway below, looking like tiny insects. 6,000 feet. The life insurance, she sobbed, a mess of tears and snot. I took out a $30 million policy on you. The beneficiaries were me and Julian. The number made my stomach clench. So that's all my life was worth. 5,000 feet. Fourth question, I said, my voice ice cold. Besides me, who else have you hurt? Her eyes darted around wildly. The altimeter read 4,500 feet. We were running out of time. Sarah, Julian made her get an abortion, and his ex-wife. Chloe's words were snatched by the wind. The car crash. It wasn't an accident. My blood ran cold. They were serial murderers. For 1,000 feet. Fifth question. I grabbed her chin, forcing her to look at me. Did you ever love me? Even for a second. Tears froze into tiny crystals on her cheeks. At first, I think I did. She stammered. But you were always at the lab. And Julian, 3,500 feet. The hard deck. The ground was terrifyingly close. Chloe began to struggle hysterically. The chute. Pull the cord. We're going to die. We're going to die. I held my position. Sixth question. The car crash that killed my parents. Was that you? Her struggling stopped. The terror in her eyes morphed into absolute despair. 3,000 feet. It was Julian, she whispered, her voice almost inaudible. He had some mess with the brakes. For the deed to your family's property. My vision went red. All this time, I grieved for an accident. It was murder. 2,000 feet. Seventh question. My own voice was shaking now. Our miscarriage. Was it an accident? Her body went completely stiff. 1,500 feet. I could see the faces of people on the ground, pointing up in horror. The pills. She confessed, her voice thick with mucus and tears. I took pills. Julian said the baby would expose us. 1,000 feet. A roar of pure, animal rage erupted from my throat. At the very last second, I yanked the handle for the reserve chute. With a deafening crack, the canopy exploded open at 800 feet, violently jerking us upward. Chloe hung for me like a rag doll, completely broken. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. She chanted robotically, drool trailing from her lips. I gripped the toggles, steering us toward the landing zone. Just before we touched down, I leaned in and whispered in her ear. Eighth question. Do you know what people who get a second chance are best at? She looked up at me, her eyes vacant, making everything look like an accident. Then, I made a show of fumbling with a harness, and a critical strap suddenly came loose with an ominous tearing sound. 3. The sound of the tearing strap sent Chloe into a fresh wave of hysterics. It's breaking. We're going to die, she screamed, writhing in the harness and digging her nails into my arms. I looked calmly at the perfectly intact strap, which was simply flapping in the wind, and allowed a cold smile to touch my lips. Looks like our time is up. That was the final straw. I'll talk. I'll tell you everything, she shrieked. Julian's father, we ruined him. He only got with me to get revenge on your family. My eyes widened. That was a new one. Go on. Your parents' car crash, he arranged it. And your sister's depression. We paid people to harass her online, to bully her. My hand tightened on the controls. My sister had taken her own life a year after I died. I'd always blamed myself. What else? The confession poured out of her in a torrent. The data leak at your lab. That was me. Julian sold it to a competitor. Your promotion that got blocked. I started the rumors about you and Linda. That's enough. I pulled hard on the left toggle, and the parachute banked, gliding smoothly toward the designated landing zone. Chloe stared in disbelief. The chute. It's not broken. Did you really think I'd die with you? I sneered. As the ground rushed up to meet us, I could see Mark waiting with the ground crew. A little further away, Julian had his arm around Sarah, his face a dark cloud as he watched us descend. The reality of her situation hit Chloe like a ton of bricks. You tricked me. You son of a bitch, you tricked me. I grabbed her wrist, and I recorded every word. I tapped the small GoPro camera mounted on my helmet. The red recording light was still blinking. The color drained from her face. 50 feet from the ground, I could see the sweat beading on Julian's forehead. Chloe started screaming his name. Julian, run. He knows everything. I clamped a hand over her mouth. Too late. We landed softly. Mark and his team rushed over to unclip us from the harness. The moment she was free, Chloe's legs gave out, and she collapsed into a heap on the grass. Julian pushed Sarah aside and jogged over, forcing a calm expression. Ethan, man, how was the jump? I slowly unstrapped the parachute pack and detached the GoPro. It was great. Your girlfriend's confession was even better. The blood drained from Julian's face. Just then, Sarah ran up, holding her phone aloft. I have proof, too. I recorded everything you two said on the plane. Julian spun around and slapped her hard across the face. You bitch. Before he could do anything else, Mark tackled him, bringing him to the ground in a perfect takedown. The cops are on their way, I said, squatting down to look the pinned Julian in the eye. Guess how many felonies your girlfriend just admitted to? Real fear finally flickered in his eyes. Chloe crawled toward him, sobbing. Julian, I didn't mean it. He lied. He said the parachute was broken. I stood up and dialed my company's legal department. John, it's Ethan Hayes. I need to press charges against 2 people. Let's start with attempted murder, corporate espionage, and insurance fraud. It's a long list. After hanging up, I dial 911. I'd like to report new evidence concerning the vehicular accident of Thomas and Mary Hayes 3 years ago. Julian suddenly bucked, breaking free from Mark's hold, and scrambled to run. I kicked the back of his knee, and he fell face first into the dirt. Where are you going? I said, grabbing a fistful of his hair and yanking his head up. You seemed so confident in my last life. His eyes widened in utter disbelief. What did you say? The sound of sirens grew closer. I let him go and brushed the dust from my hands. Nothing. Just get ready to face the needle. Chloe lunged, grabbing my leg. Ethan, I was wrong. You made me do it. Please forgive me just this once. I looked down at her face, her expensive makeup now a mess of tear-streaked grime. Fine. Her eyes lit up with desperate hope. After you get out of prison, I said, pry her fingers from my leg one by one. I'll be sure to forgive you. The police cruisers pulled up to the hangar. I walked over to Mark. Give me the best criminal lawyer you know. I handed him a small audio recorder. This has a few extra details. Sarah approached me and held out a flash drive. Everything from Julian's laptop. All the evidence of his crimes. I looked at her, stunned. Where did you get this? She pulled down the collar of her shirt, revealing more dark bruises. I endured 3 months of hell for this. As the police led Julian and Chloe away, I stopped the lead officer. Just one more thing. I knocked on the window of the lead cruiser. Officer, I have reason to believe my parents' death 3 years ago was not an accident. I'm formally requesting the case be reopened. The window rolled down, revealing the face of a man I recognized from high school, now a police detective. He nodded grimly. We've already received an anonymous tip with supporting materials, Mr. Hayes. We're on it. I stood there for a moment, stunned. I looked at Sarah, but she shook her head. It wasn't her. Who was it? The case moved quickly. Faced with the recordings and the flash drive, Chloe and Julian turned on each other, revealing an even deeper web of deceit, blackmail, and violence, including the unsolved murder of Julian's first wife. They were monsters. I was sitting on a bench in the police station hallway when Sarah sat down next to me. Thank you, Ethan, for getting justice for me. I should be thanking you, I said. Without that flash drive, we wouldn't have half of this. She gave a sad smile. My original plan was to kill him and then myself. He's not worth it, I said, patting her shoulder. Dying for scum like that is a waste. Just like I had. An officer approached me. Mr. Hayes? The suspect, Chloe Evans, is asking to see you. I walked into the interrogation room. Chloe sat in handcuffs, her eyes swollen and red. Honey, don't call me that. It makes me sick. For the 3 years we were married, she sobbed. Can't you? No, I cut her off. You plotted against my parents, you tormented my sister, and you tried to murder me. You don't get to ask for pity now. She looked down, silent. As I turned to leave, her voice, small and broken, stopped me. When did you first start to suspect me? I looked back at the woman I once promised my life to. The moment you first told me you loved me. 3 weeks later, the trial began. I sat in the courtroom and watched Chloe and Julian being led in, their orange jumpsuits a stark contrast to the designer clothes I was used to seeing them in. Chloe was a wreck, but Julian wore a mask of pure, unadulterated hatred. When the prosecutor played the audio I'd recorded during the fall, the courtroom was silent. Chloe's confession, punctuated by the roar of the wind and her terrified sobs, filled the space. She broke down completely. I confess to everything. Please, just have mercy. Julian shot her a look of venom. Shut up, you idiot. The verdict came a week later. Julian Vance was found guilty on multiple counts, including first-degree murder, and was sentenced to death. Chloe Evans received a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. As they were dragged from the courtroom, Julian screaming about an appeal, I felt the weight of a lifetime lift from my shoulders. It was over. Sarah was waiting for me outside. I handed her an envelope, a little something to help you start over. She pushed it back. I don't want money. Seeing them get what they deserved is enough. She smiled, a genuine, hopeful smile this time. I'm moving back home. Maybe open a small bookstore. Good for you, Sarah, I said. Good for you. That night, I drove to a small, quiet cafe on the outskirts of the city. A woman in a baseball cap was sitting in the corner booth. I slid in across from her. I knew it was you, I said. She looked up, and my breath caught in my throat. It was my sister, Maya. Hey, big brother, she said, her eyes red-rimmed. We finally got justice for Mom and Dad. I reached across the table and took her hand. You crazy kid. Why didn't you tell me what you were doing? I had to be sure, she said, sliding a thick file across the table. This is everything. The real story behind the Vance family bankruptcy, the people Julian hired, everything. He thought our family ruined his, so he built his entire life around getting revenge. A bitter, pointless cycle of hatred. It's all over now, Maya. She squeezed my hand. Yeah, it is. This time we get to live. A month later, I got a call from the prison. Chloe had taken her own life in her cell. The warden said she had scratched a single word into the wall over and over again. Regret. Julian's final appeal was denied. On the day of his execution, Maya and I visited our parents' graves. I lit a copy of the final court verdict and watched the ashes drift up into the clear blue sky. It's done, Mom. Dad, I whispered. Rest easy. The wind rustled through the trees. Maya linked her arm through mine. I got into grad school, Ethan. I smiled, ruffling her hair. That's my brilliant sister. Don't worry about the tuition. I've got you. We walked out of the cemetery and back into the sunlight. I've been given a second chance, and I finally understood. Some people deserve the full force of your wrath, and some deserve all the gentleness you have to give.